Welcome back, everyone, to the Senate Education. We have with us now, Secretary of the Senate, John Bloomer, and continuing our conversation in preparation for Tuesday's hearing with Secretary Saunders. And we did just hear Secretary Bloomer from Agatha Kessler and John Folway a little bit about crowds and what we may or may not anticipate, how we can meet everyone's expectations and advertise that we are not hearing from the public, but but if people want to submit testimony, they're free to do so. What we thought we might have you here for is to talk to us a little bit about process and a little bit about motions and how steps we would need to take to advance or not advance Secretary Saunders' nomination. So the floor is yours.
Very good. I think I'll give you an offer that maybe we don't always get. I'll start talking. I can talk forever or talk very fast. And feel free to interrupt me at any time. I think it's actually not what your witnesses always expect, but I think it's much more conducive for you to be able to have an answer rather than have me. You're all very wise. You would never forget, but it's easier for me to get back on task.
We're really good at interrupting, as you can see.
We're really good at
interrupting.
So let me just give you some process. And some of you or all of you kind of know most of it. Whenever there's an appointment by the governor, we receive a letter, and that letter tells us who the person is, what their address is, what position they are being appointed to, and the term.
And has that letter been received yet?
It has not.
Okay.
Generally, I also did do that. If you want to know, we don't usually receive them before they start.
Correct.
Which is that we had some people ask. We run back to our data bank. Every now and then we'll get one before they're appointed. Usually it's after. Quite frequently it's after. There's an interim during the time when we're not here. We receive them probably the second or third week of January. But it's not unusual for us to not have it.
And just so the community knows, I reached out to the governor's office in the letter they are anticipating sending to letter.
It's my understanding we should be receiving it this week, if not tomorrow. I will tell you, we did reach out to make sure that my office had staff if they wanted to deliver yesterday. And we were told it was not yesterday. But my job, our staff's job is to make sure we facilitate whatever you all need. So we generally will receive a letter. That letter is then frequently the next day. Sometimes it can be 2 days if we get a whole stack because we have to enter them into a database, but they're eventually read on the floor. If it's a single person like this would be, we would read the person's name, have it referred to the Committee on Education, and it would go after you. You may have heard, if it's a staff of 35, we say something like, we've now received 35 appointments from the governor, they're being referred to the respective committees, then we contain the today's journal, which you will receive under justice tomorrow. And then you can look and you can see all of them. The old days, sometimes they would read them all, but probably for the last couple of decades, it's been it's a group who do it that way. We will, 1 or 2 we usually read. When it gets to 3 or more, I leave it to the lieutenant governor's discretion as to whether he or she wants to do them individually or as a group. That then comes down, we get Assistant Secretary Melissa, we give the appointment to the clerk, and the clerk, like a bill, brings it down to the committee. Once it's in your committee, you have possession of it. It's just like a bill, anything you can take on a committee, put in committee, it's just what to give a recommendation to the Senate as a whole, which needs to eventually act on. You can do your hearing. Those have varied depending on the appointment, depending whether it's commissioner, depending on how controversial they are or not. If it's something that's not a commissioner or a secretary, as you may know, sometimes you're assigned people to call up this. There's somebody on the board of you may not do a lot, but you at least move them up and take it onto a calendar. The amount of a hearing you have to do is really within the discretion of the committee. I believe most commissioners and secretaries I'll have an in-person hearing. I don't know of any that have not. It depends on where the gradient is. Whether or not you call other witnesses is really well decided. I think you receiving background from not only myself and other individuals today. One other time on your calendar or your agenda, I think I saw, which might be appropriate. I think people you have coming later in the week are probably going to explain the process for the Board of Education and how that process works, which is a little different than somebody who's on the environmental board, because that comes through the governor's office. This, I believe, was some sort of a nominating process and works through, so I think it's good that you're hearing kind of how that process works, so you have an understanding. You eventually complete your hearing, and at that point, the person's in this committee. You have a number of choices. If you want to forward the person to the full floor, on the back of that, sort of that in quotations in a moment, you have really three choices. You need a positive vote out of this committee, not positive in recommending the appointment, but you need a 3-2 vote or a majority of the committee to have the nomination go to the floor. You have really three choices that I know of from this committee's perspective. One of them is you can recommend it favorably. 2 is you can recommend it adversely. Or 3, you can vote it out with no recommendation. Those are all motions. Some motion has to carry. Okay, so if someone moves that it be favorable, if it's 3-2, then they come out favorable, the 3-2 vote be explained on the floor. If it's 2-3, they don't come out favorable. You can then have a motion that they are unfavorable. And if it gets 3-2, then they come out unfavorable. If it gets 2-3, they don't come out. Right? It may seem weird, but somebody may not want the person even on the floor, and so it's not a binary vote, yes or no. Does it come out positive? Does it come out negative? And the alignment of those people does not have to make common sense necessarily to you as you look at this. Please.
Thank you. So the motions, all of the possible motions are to confirm or not to confirm in this committee,
So
or to move out to the Senate
it would probably be to report.
to report.
Favorably.
Okay, so there is no vote in here to confirm or not confirm.
They're just like a bill you don't vote on. Sorry, so to be like,
There's
just
no motion
so
to confirm or not confirm.
well, because
Okay.
the Senate's the only one who can really, you're gonna do a report.
So
What is your
I
report?
misunderstood that when we talked
sorry.
last week. Yeah,
So,
okay.
so the motion, I mean, it depends on how you want to word it, we sometimes get relaxed, but it's really gonna be, you're gonna report them out favorably or unfavorably, whoever the reporter is, or with no recommendation, which is your third option. And the no recommendation also takes 3 votes. The only thing you need to,
Can you say that again?
so there are 3 ways of having the person out of the committee. Report favorably, revote adversely, or not to confirm, and with no recommendation. Just like a bill. You can do all 3 of those, but to have any of those be successful, it takes at least 3 votes if you're all here. Now, I just want to make sure. Because I've seen at least once in the last 5 years, somebody on a committee vote no on all 3. And it was 3-2 every way. Sorry, 2-3 every, because they were the third vote and they didn't want this bill out of the committee. So somebody moved to make it, report it positively with amendment. 2-3. Somebody moved to report it adversely. 2-3. Somebody moved to regard it with no recommendation. It was 2-3. That third vote was that person kind of jumped it around because they just wanted the bill to die in their committee. So same idea here with the nomination. You've been assigned this appointment, and to have you guys make a report, it has to have somebody who can go up and explain the majority's position, which takes majority was present, or it takes 3 of all 5 of you are here. There's another way of getting a bill or a nomination of a committee. If it's stuck in your committee and you guys are all in that 2-3 stuff, somebody on the floor can move to relieve the committee of the nomination. There will not be a report on the floor. People can stand up and do their own thing, but to have a committee report, you need a positive vote for something done. And then if you all decided not to bring the nomination out, someone could move to relieve it. In that sense, it would go on the notice column, just like it will with a bill or with a report for this committee. So those are some of the motions you can make. There's other motions. I don't know if you want to cover them. It's the nominations frequently, long ago, used to all come out. They don't always all come out nowadays. There was a,
Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting.
no, sure.
Can you give us an example of what the language will slash would be, so that we know how to word the motion.
Yeah, yes, it's gonna. I always like to think, contemplate, it's going to be something like, I move that, Committee on Education report the accommodation of blah, 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 this Secretary of Education favor. Warren reverse. Or without recommendation. If there's no recommendation, then there is no report.
So, one of the things I mentioned in caucus today was when I sort of explained this is going to happen on the 23rd, 2:00. I then said, and we'll leave it to be working with the pro tem's office in terms of timing on the floor. What's the soonest, if the pro tem wants this to be on the, what's the soonest it could be up and ready to go?
So
Is it like a wait, or is sort of handled like a bill? It could be pulled off notice, put on notice, all that kind of thing.
hey, what, so at the very end of your calendars, more and more of you should be familiar.
Yeah.
We put the bills, which you all have the table of contents, and then be like a resolution, there's stuff at the end, like your confirmations are in your calendar every day. There's currently like
Right.
6 or 7 of them there. Those that are underlined, we need to report. This one will have an underline. The date that's there is the date that they can be up for action. And so that's usually a day after a notice. So when it first comes up, if you voted it out today, it would be on notice tomorrow. And without a rule suspension, the soonest it would be up in Thursday. Right. We generally take up nominations on Fridays, but just whatever leadership and the body decides to do. They've done Fridays, but they do not have to do Fridays.
Right.
That's just sort of a way that 5 or 6 years ago, we started kind of making a process. So they didn't sit to the very end. Sometimes they would be on the calendar for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Or more.
Senator Reeds, please.
So then the floor vote, what are the options for voting there? Is it just yea and nay?
Well, okay, that's an interesting question.
There'll be a roll call.
It is, there will be a roll call probably requested. It's not automatic. The only automatic roll calls are things like constitutional questions that are in the Constitution, but we have not done commissioners, so we without a roll call. And if we send a series did it, we have some Collmore who does it. I expect there to be a request. The underlying question shall be said of, kind of the question I read, still the appointment of blah, 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 be confirmed by the such and such, or such and such. Can we have a little script? Can you bring it down, but we have a script that we get to Lieutenant Falcon. That is then really a yes or no. It is, you have a great question. Because with a bill, I probably treat it different. So I'm gonna run through something probably, I don't know if anybody in the table has ever seen before. So generally, a bill can be voted out adversely. And which is where your question kind of comes. So if it comes out adversely, it is gonna be, sort of, that we recommend it not be confirmed. So we're gonna take that as a yes and a no vote, kind of the way that you described it. Yes, if you want the person to confirm, no, if you don't. If you vote on a bill adversely, it's different process. Okay, so the first question then is, shall the bill be carried? That's not really the question. Shall the bill be, not read the third time? And if that fails, then you can amend the bill and move it back the other way. But with a confirmation, we will always be requesting, doing it as a positive vote. So even if the committee says the person should not be confirmed, the question will be worded, shall they be confirmed? And I think it's most important because the public I don't want to mess up the public with yes and no votes. And people try to look at what the question is. It's very difficult if you suddenly have someone voting no, which means they really mean yes, and yes when they really mean no. And so my belief is we will make it as a positive vote. If you do not want to confirm her mayor on the floor, it'll be a no vote. And if you do, it'll be a yes vote rather than make it very confusing.
And like a bill, there can be debate, there can be comments, people get up. Please.
How about a report?
So, yes, if it comes out with a 3-2 or 4, whatever the positive vote is, they would be reporting to the committee on whatever that report is. Say that 3-2. So there's somebody signed a report. Come up, report, positive, negative. You have not seen a lot, it used to be much more frequent. Other positions on bill, sorry, Mr. Chair, but sometimes other committee people that have been opposed to it are stand up and say, why? Yeah, you all in the last 5, 6 years since COVID, been very well behaved. Maybe because I tell everybody they have to, but but sometimes you're entitled to explain, the person reporting cannot explain why somebody else voted, that would be improper. But if you voted no on a bill on a committee, you're entitled to stand up and explain why. And also, we don't really have formal minority reports, but with a confirmation or with a bill, you're entitled to say what you think and why. So there can be, the committee position will be by a reporter if it comes out either favorably or unfavorably, and they would present that case or that explanation as to why the committee landed where they. Well, the other thing I was gonna mention was, your other option, is not to take it up at all. Or to take it up and not vote it out, or if you can't get it out. Historically, most nominations or appointments came out 20 or 30 years. There was a bit of a controversy and sort of a way of protesting appointments. Sometimes they just didn't come up. And in the background on that briefly, I don't want the background briefly on that, in fact, in the early 90s, most of the time appointments were taken up. There was an appointment that was a very controversial on the Senate floor. It was probably the last time anybody was not confirmed on the Senate floor. It was back in '94. There was an environmental board put together. There were 4 or 5 members on the board. They took them all up. 3 of them were not confirmed. 2 of them, I think, were. Howard Dean was the governor, and then the next week, Howard Dean reappointed the exact same 3 people. They were taken up 2 weeks later and not confirmed again. In fact, the second time around, the lieutenant governor, I think, had to break either 1 or 2 of the. So the reason I mention that is that after that process
Was that Barbara?
I guess that was, they broke the tie. It was listed at court, I get the jury against it, but that's my understanding. The last time someone was not confirmed, it was 5, right? There were 5 people they were voting on. It was well, the actually went into the evenings. So the reports coming back. It was a difficult time for the city. Again, you have to all do your job. It's just it is not sort of typical to not confirm people. Not what we see in DC. Frequently people are blocked just. If you have a good reason, you should, but if you don't, it's not usually done on a political statement, at least in Vermont. The other thing, this is a potentially different. You'll want to maybe get council's input on two things. One of them, which I briefly mentioned in the chairs, what the term is. I believe the term goes to February 28th.
And you were
so-
correct, we didn't get that.
So it's not like a 4-year term. At one time, there's some appointments that are like longer. So they will come, if the person's confirmed in education, they will come back up next year. Okay. The second thing is, which is a little bit different, is that I gave you this example for Howard Dean and the environmental board. This is a slightly different because it comes through a board that nominates. And so I don't think there's a correct legal answer. But I don't know whether or not, if the person was not confirmed, if they could be reappointed from the same pool, or whether they have to get a separate pool, or whether that would delay there being somebody in charge of the education. I do not have. It's different. It's a little bit like the Green Mountain Care Board or the Cannabis Board, where you're nominated through, you're screened, and then the names are forwarded, or judicial nominating when the names are forwarded. Sometimes the judicial nominating, they ask for additional names, but if somebody is current way that education works, I believe it's sort of forwarded names. I don't know what the process is. I don't think you're going to get a definitive answer, but it's one you at least want to kind of know the parameters of what happens if you don't confirm.
Well, yeah, so if statute is silent on that issue, to whom would we pose the question?
Nobody's going to court. Unless there's a definitive answer, you can talk to counsel about doing, so I'm a lawyer. It's sort of like, I don't know, so they reappoint same person.
Right.
Under our system generally different than DC. When you're appointed by the governor, you will serve until you're not confirmed. Or you're supposed to be not appointed. And that's different than DC. It's why we don't have like as designees and all the other stuff. They serve. Oh, I don't know, somebody would, if they were thinking, they were reappointed, then maybe they serve until they're told they're not. And I don't know if that's a core. I don't know where that comes from. And it may be clear, it may be clearer in statutes than I know. I just don't have the answer for it. And I think you should find out what the answer is, so you know all your alternatives.
So hypothetically, they could, a nominee could come off the floor without support. There would be no, State Board of Education renomination. Unless there was a court challenge, they would continue to serve until February.
So if there's a floor vote, and it's 10-20. Or it's 14-6, or whatever. They are no longer the commissioner or secretary. Secretary. I just want to make sure I get this sort of right out. And the secretary, they have not been approved, so they cannot serve any longer. Difference is back in '94, the governor being reappointed the same way. So if the governor Scott does not try to reappoint the same person, there's a vacancy. And then the question becomes, can he or she, the governor, use the existing pool? Do they have to get a new set of names? I don't have the answers to that process.
Okay.
But in with the '94, there was not that process. It was just the governor could appoint who they wanted to, and so Governor Dean reappointed the same people. But I don't know the answer to this particular search. Anything helps you? Is there an easy crowd?
No, not really. This has been incredibly helpful, incredibly important.
I left my cell phone in the office upstairs, so it would go off. You do know that when you.
How was your birthday?
Yeah, it was really great. So you do know that the other attorney at this table will probably tell you that if you're gonna commit a crime, you don't go in and rob a bank. And right before you do, pull your face mask down and wave to the cameras. So all of you that were involved and texted me, I know your name. Because you're all there.
Yeah, I messed up.
It's kind of hard to like defend you.
It was fun.
Yes, it was. I'm glad you guys had. Because I looked at it as a team film thing, it's nothing else. I mind being the brunt because I probably told something I don't think you guys have enough fun. You do very serious work, very important work. I'd say that. And I will never confess one way or another because it would spoil the fun or not spoil the fun. Anything?
We okay. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Take care. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Whoops.
Nimble.
It's still your birthday.
Can you fix that?